The Lord of the Rings of Power, Season 2 finale. Shadow and Flame, and our wizard has been name dropped. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, Brand here back with Geek Variants. Cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. And before I go on our usual spiel, let's just dive right on into the meat and potatoes of this episode. Season 2, better than Season 1. First initial reaction is my thoughts. How do you feel about this, Will, or what specifically about this episode did you want to discuss?
They have done fantastic with building this up from the first season because again, the first season we did have issues there, but again, they did well. So this entire season, the props were better, the looks were better, and just the overall feel was better. So with that, for me, what sold it for me, Elrond and Celebrimbor working separately in their own respective plot lines. So with that, absolutely sold it for me. They were the best part of this for me. I'm very happy with how season two kind of went into and how it's set up for season three. So nothing but pleased right now.
Yep, and I'm nothing but pleased right now in every faculty except for one. Our wizard was name dropped. I'm just going to go ahead and drop that name now for those who've been patient enough waiting. Our good wizard was called Grand Elf, which he translated to Gandalf. So we have Gandalf, our wizard, who we've seen throughout The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, is our individual who has made their grand appearance here for the Rings of Power, which leads many to believe that the Dark Wizard will now be Saruman, which, a lot of people have a lot of mixed opinions on, but we'll discuss that in our later video where we'll have like the full season 2 breakdown once I've had time to collect my thoughts and not be as emotional about it. But this episode for me was very good. There was a few moments that dragged, but overall I think we did a really really good job. We touched upon a couple key elements that ultimately I didn't think necessarily we touch upon. Because how did you feel about us going back to Numenor as early as we did in this episode?
Uh, I didn't really care for going back to Numenor. That they could have left it open ended. What they showed, they could have showed in the first 10 minutes of the new season. Um, but I understand with sets and props, and you already got stuff set up, and they want to run some stuff. That's fine. You could just film it and save it. Uh, the only purpose it served was getting Elendil, I guess, to leave and carry on with the sword because he did get the sword. Hang on, let me the white flame, right? So that is not freaking. So he did acquire that sword and leave with that sword, which was the one positive thing on that side. And on the other side of outside of Numenor, Isildur finally knows what's going on with Numenor, and it's not the happy place he once believed it to be. And several things have changed, including his father being an outlaw, roughly in the for better sense of the word. Um, so yeah, those are the only two purposes it really served. Other than that, we're still kind of at the same point. Pharazon is ruling everything and doing what he does, and he is probably going to be corrupted by Sauron in season three at some point in time, and Numenor is going to probably fall to the wayside. So
Yeah, there's a lot of foreshadowing there. There's a lot of key things to discuss as far as that's resolved. We actually got to finally see the Balrog, which I have to say the Balrog looked absolutely majestic. He was terrifying. He was the shadow. He was the flame. He was the exact name drop of this episode, even though technically you could look at it as Sauron was the shadow and that the Balrog is the flame. It works kind of two and two on that regard. But again, we saw that Durin's father was able to overcome the ring in an interesting series of events because he didn't seem to be swayed one bit by his son. But the minute he was faced with his own mortality, all of a sudden he just kind of had this, oh, oops, just kidding. I don't need this ring anymore. I'm going to go ahead and take on this legendary creature of darkness, this creation of Morgoth, and go head to head in this moment in time. How did you feel about, Durin's father finding the light as he's staring at the darkness?
again, I don't like the way he did it. I think it would have been better off if the ring had fallen off, or if he got when he got whipped and so like that. You could have pulled him down, and the ring could have flew off his finger or something like that. You could have done it a couple different ways to where he kind of regained consciousness and kind of did his noble sacrifice, it would have felt more real. It would have felt better that way, as opposed to him, because like if you could have forced me taken off all the time, that's just telling me more that you knew exactly what you were doing back when you were doing it, and you didn't give two flying, f's about whatever was happening. But now, because you know that, yeah, you done woke up something and you're probably gonna, not make it. Oh, let me go ahead and pass this on to you so you can keep this corruption going with the rest of us. Like, run it. It's like, really? This is what we're doing? So I'm not too happy about it at all.
Yeah, the only thing that I was super happy about as far as the dwarves are concerned is that they ultimately did go ahead and send help. Narvi turned out to be a real trooper there because he went through a very, very serious head wound and then still throws on battle armor, still runs all the way to Aragon with the troops and leads this noble charge to go ahead and save the elves from being entirely eradicated. And then, Gil-Galad and Elrond and Arondir and all the people that we're really starting to grow quite fond of as their characters have started to really, really shine in this second season. So Narvi's really come out as a clutch hero thus far for our group. The inner workings of the politics, that's what's going on here. I think you touched upon it brilliantly when we did the live stream that it was a real miss that we didn't have Durin's brother on screen because, as you stated, and I'll let you speak on it here in a little bit, if he's going to be rumored to be king, or at least face Durin for the next open role of being king, we probably should have met him by now. Is that fair?
Oh, that's absolutely fair. Like, there was no reason not to have him cast in this season and in the background, possibly siding with his father, trying to uh usurp the throne at some point, just, yeah, dad's right, or freaking, why is it any of your business, and so like that, let dad be king type thing or whatever. He could have just been chirping in the background, because all of a sudden this mysterious no name character is now gaining favor with becoming king. It's like, but this is Doran, and he named his child Doran. Like, you are my number one, like you are named directly after me. Freaking, I wore the Prince thing. I lost it, got it back, or whatever. But like, I got it back, which showed that I'm back in favor with my father, and I'm wearing it. Like, I didn't see you walking around wearing it. I don't see you. Like, so many things just don't make sense with why the brother's not there. So, yeah, I think it's a huge swing and a miss.
Yeah, and that was probably the biggest snub we've seen as far as the season's concerned. I think we really touched great upon everything involving Adar. There was a lot of interesting foreshadowing and elements that they showed involving Adar and his character. Because initially we see him wearing Nenya, the Ring of Galadriel, and he is full on just regular elf. All the Uruk traits that have started to take hold in him are gone. All the scarification that he's had, the deepness in his voice, all that were out the window, and it looked like he was basically hiding himself on his knees, basically like he was ashamed that he looked the way that he was. And I think that part had something to do with the fact of Glug and his ultimate betrayal. Because we did see in the last episode, and you called it astutely again, that Glug was going to be the person that ends up betraying Adar because he hesitated as far as going into the battle. And he was like, I don't really want to do anything with this. I don't really want to go die for these terms right here, right now. And ultimately, he was the one that drove a sword directly through Adar's side, leading to the ultimate turning of the orcs, like they did on Sauron back in episode 1 of this second season. Everything kind of came full circle. Glug betrays Adar, who was promoting peace and family and prosperity for everyone, and just kind of going through the happiness that potentially could have been awaiting for these Uruks if we'd been able to go through the season normally. But again, he chooses Sauron, and then Sauron, at by the end of this episode, has already turned around and stabbed and taken out Glug, who was basically kind of
Hmm.
questioning him, as like, "Hey, we should go save our own skins. We should flee." Instead, Sauron's like, Absolutely not." Stabs him. End of day. Everyone moves on like none. Mum's the word. Everyone's none the wiser. So he kind of got his comeuppance in the end. I will still say, Celebrimbor, you went out like an absolute champ. Is there
Champ.
anything you want to say about your boy Celebrimbor?
Again, he was fantastic throughout this entire season. His entire plot line, how he, worked everything, his mannerisms. Again, episode 6 and 7 were like the icing on the cake for me. Like, that was the best part of everything. the way he went through the transition of, being duped, starting to realize, starting to come out of it, having the turn, losing the girl, like all this stuff just constantly just messing with him. And he was fantastic. And again, Sauron was fantastic too. He did great with manipulation and stuff. But them two as a pair, again, that was the best part of the entire season, was watching these two is interaction throughout everything. So Caleb Brimboar is my MVP for the season for sure.
Oh yeah, they had huge key elements. He was very influential. I'm giving Durin the fourth as my MVP for this season. He has continued to show that his relationship with Disa and his relationship with the dwarves and Elrond is pivotal and key into who he is as a human being. And now we're going to really see him challenged in season three for the throndom and everything involving that. We left off with the elves looking like they're about to rebuild. Numenor is in a state of flux as they kind of figure out what's going on. The one character that they didn't touch upon, like what their next move is Sauron, and I think that's a wise move because we do know that the people of Numenor are seeking him out. To what end and to how they're going to go about that, I think season three is going to pick up right where that left off, and we're going to see some very, very intriguing shots of Numenor and everything involving how we build up all of our characters moving forward. And we left off our wizard hanging out with the one and only Tom Bombadil, which I have to say, Tom Bombadil did a fantastic job this season, and Amazon Prime Video. A huge shout out to you guys for handling the character because if you've read even a smidgen of the books, Tom Bombadil is eccentric, he's difficult, he's hard to figure out, and I think they really got that for even the most new viewers to really understand what the character is about. Did you feel you understood Tom as best as you possibly could, considering how insane and wacky he is?
I like that he was very cryptic and stuff. I think the actor did a great job. He was fun. I didn't understand what his thing is. I just knew that he knew magic and he would be the one to teach and stuff like that. But he's teaching lessons, but he's doing it in a fun, silly kind of way, which is what I heard the character kind of is, and stuff like that. So he never gave off in like an air of being too serious at any point in time. And he was just kind of like, even when he told him like, freaking, if you leave, that's it. So that, and he's like, do what you want, and kind of went on about his business and stuff. And it was great. So it really let me lean into the character and the way he is. He kind of he is. I don't know how to describe it. Stuff like that. Freaking, I want to say,
He gives me Merlin vibes from like early Disney days where he's a goofball, but
yeah,
he's just a
yeah.
powerhouse of a character.
I think that's it right there. I think that sums it up perfectly for him. Really fun, but powerful. Like, don't cross him. Like, if you cross him, I think he's definitely got something in his tank that will, blow up like everything. Like, I feel like he's a nuke waiting to happen.
Tom is one of those characters where he's one of one, and basically, if you go look at the Lord of the Rings, his name is mentioned as someone that they thought could potentially wield the One Ring all the way to Mordor and put it in the mountain, but they ultimately decided not to because they kind of figured that Tom Bombadil might forget he has the ring, put it somewhere else, and then just abscond and just be completely unbothered by everything that was going on because Tom is just that individual where it's like he beats to his own drum. There is no other drum, and there's nothing that's going to really set him on a different path. Tom does what Tom wants to do, and what I want to do is break down season three when we get closer to that. I'll give it a little bit of time to marinate and digest. I'll have some theories, I'll have some crafts. We'll go ahead and discuss everything good, bad, and indifferent involving season two at that moment in time as well when we do that recap. But season two for me, a huge step in the right direction overall. I think we got like a 7.9 out of 10. There were still some dull parts, but we moved in a much more positive direction than last season. What are your thoughts?
Definitely in a positive direction. We need to keep moving in a positive direction. We need to make sure the focus is on the right characters and stuff. Sauron has the rings. We need to focus on the men. This is where he is. Dwarves got their rings. Elves got their rings. What about the men? The men who become freaking the servants of him. Like, we need to start focusing on them. Where are they? What's going to happen? And how is he going to move things along? Because we got 5 seasons, right? So I'm expecting some stuff to, I don't know how long it takes for that process to happen or whatever he needs to do to kind of reach out to all of them, cross over all of Middle Earth, whatever. But we need to see it. Numenor, here's looking at you. We'll get more to you next season. And the political battle between the dwarves is what needs to, be part of the forefront of what's going on. So elves, even though they're ready to stand and fight, They need to rebuild. The orcs need to rebuild. If we want to have another epic battle coming through, we need forces at the maximum so they can kind of clash and really get into it.
Yep, a lot of good stuff this season. A lot of great stuff to look forward to. I've been Brent alongside Will. Be sure to hit that lovely red subscribe button if you're new to the channel and love the content. That way we can see you in the next episode. Have a great night, folks.